agenda of this module is, by the end of this module you would know about agile contracts, what are the best possible contracts, what is time boxing, how you should time box, what are the various levels of planning, what is Kanban, though we have discussed it, but we'll talk about the work in progress limits and all that. And then we will talk about few flow diagrams like burndowns and burnup charts. Okay?
Yeah.
So before we kickstart what is Agile contract, can somebody tell me what is a contract?
Contract is an agreement, right? I mean, a formal kind of an agreement.
Okay, so to start with Agile contract, a contract is nothing but a formal documentation between a team or a vendor and a client. So in our IT terms, it's a formal communication or a written document which has been agreed upon between a project team and a business. Right? It includes what would be covered, what would not be covered, what would be the scope of project, how the project would be handled, and what are the third parties that would be involved. A typical contract. So now, how is Agile contract different from a normal contract? In a waterfall model or any other software lifecycle technique, the project could be fixed price as well, where fixed time and fixed scope. But since we are agile, we tend to avoid fixed price and fixed scope and fixed time. Can one of you tell me why we should avoid fixed price and fixed scope, fixed time as FSFT? Similarly, in the case of fixed price, let's assume if I say, okay, I'll deliver this website in $100, because internally I thought this will just take 20 hours of my effort. But eventually, since I was agile, I started, there was a scope creep, the things started changing, whatever was decided at the very initial phase did not turn out to be, and it took 50 hours of my effort. But since it was a fixed price contract, I can't ask for more money, but I almost spent 150% of additional effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in agile projects, fixed price FSFT should be avoided. One of the best approach that is recommended is fixed price per iteration. So, for a iteration in agile, the size of an iteration remains fixed. If in the beginning of the project the size of iteration is decided to be 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks, no matter what, iteration size does not increase. Depending upon the situation, we might choose to drop or pick up additional stories, but the size of the iteration would not increase. So this would be irrespective of the stories or the features I deliver. Okay. So one of the best recommended technique is fixed price iteration. So my team had 8 people, 8 into 8 is 64, and 64 into 16 days, probably in case of 2 days, sorry, 15 days. In case of 3 weeks, this would be the cost, right? I know the cost, and it would be irrespective of the features I deliver, right? So one of the ways is this. Another is progressive contracts. So the progressive contracts are the one where we can have a variable scope or T&M kind of a projects, which again they should be again based on per iteration. We cannot gauge the complete project when we are working on agile. Since we are talking about we will accept change, so it should, if we are working on a T&M model as well, it should be based on each iteration, right? Then there are certain other ones which are like variable price and variable scope. Fixed price per unit of work. So for example, I say, okay, so there is this point, story point. Do you have any idea about the story point? No. Okay.
No, no idea.
No, he is not. Okay. So story point is nothing but in agile, when we have to describe the complexity of a requirement, we define that in a story point. or there is another thing which is used, which is called t-shirt sizing, right? So if I have a huge requirement, I would call it as XL. If it's a small requirement, it would be small. Similarly, so we have small, medium, large, XL and double XL depending upon how big the project is. Whereas in numbers, if I have to define, we generally use Fibonacci series, which is 1, 2, 3, 5 and so on. 5, 8, 13 and so on. So, so what we do is we charge on the basis of a story point. So now I know my stories, I know my requirements, okay, and each requirement I give a story point. I define the complexity. So based on that, I say, okay, any requirement which I will take with 3 story points would be charged for this much amount. So it is calculated in the sense of its analogy to hours. By the time you have 1 or 2 iterations down, you would be able to gauge, okay, 3 story points generally takes 5 hours of effort. So this is how you can calculate. So these are the typical agile contracts. So for me, I think BEGS is a fixed price iteration per, and again, if we are using TMX, it should be again iteration on basis of the iteration. So time boxing is nothing but as a predetermined duration for a fixed event. For example, if I have I have been saying that my iterations are generally 2 to 4 weeks. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, time for the iterations do not increase. Similarly, any meeting, for example, a stand-up meeting, a typical stand-up meeting should not exceed 15 minutes. Or a retrospective meeting, it should not increase 45 to 1 hour of the time. Right? So time boxing means fixing the duration for some event. Then beyond this time, you would not. So generally, if you see the working of an agile project, after the time is, so I set up I sent a meeting request to everybody for daily stand-up, and I assumed it to be for 15 minutes. So my meeting request said from 11 to 11:15. As we start approaching that time, somebody in the time, probably the Scrum Master, starts telling people time out, time out, time out, so that people can be real quick and we don't convert 15-minute meeting into a 1 hour meeting. So everything in Agile is short and crisp. So this is what is time boxing. Now, when we were talking about iterations, when we start working on the project, when we have the product backlogs or the complete list of the requirements, we decide, okay, this would be my, I would have fixed size of iterations, this would be 3 weeks, and we adhere to it. So only story requirements which are complete, 100% complete in this particular time frame are considered for the demo. Others are rejected even if it's 50% or 80% complete. They are not even considered for demo. They are moved to the next sprint. Okay. This is time boxing. Okay. A quick honest question. Which of the following is not an advantage of time boxing? Establish a work in progress limit, forces prioritization, demonstrates progress, helps in controlling technical debt. Okay, so the answer is D. It helps in controlling. It will not help in controlling the technical debt.
Yeah.
Was this you guys thought, or was it different?
Yes, absolutely. See, one, first and third was same. Both were depending on the progress thing, and second was short no. So I like forces prioritization. Of course, prioritization will always be a time-bound thing, and WIP first and demonstrating progress is the same thing. So I actually did it with an elimination way, and technical details and controlling those things are always, you know, more the time it is, better it is. I thought in that way.
So Kanban, I think we have discussed it yesterday as well, but so I'll skip the slide in case you have any questions around it.
Yesterday I wanted to ask this. You were saying that 3 columns, one is not started, then in progress, and third is done.
Yeah.
Next is what you are planning to do, analysis, development, acceptance. But this talks about a little bit, I mean, I'm not able to map or
This is a different. This is just a sec. I'll just pick. So this is a different kind. So typical Kanban board would be something like this. You have this board, right? These are the 3 columns. I'm sorry for my lines because I'm. So you would have not started here, in progress here, and done here. So under these not started, you may probably divide it into 2 sections. One would say dev, another would say QA items, right? Or and similarly like this. This is another way of doing it. Another could be dev, QA. So right now, so under dev, creation of a framework is one task. Creation of test scenarios is one task. Creation of probably writing a code, let's assume. Then creation of a test data is one. So once I say I'm working on it, I will move it here, right? Once I start creating my architecture framework, I'll move this here, right? Similarly, these are the different ways which we can do.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you are, if you're working track-wise, right? QA and dev, generally, if you're not working in a pair way, right? If you want to maintain it in a different scenario, because this is how your client wants to see from a reporting perspective. You might not need the second column. This column in that case would not be needed, because in that case, integration team would have a different task Kanban board, a QA team would have a different, then it's just not started, in progress, and done would be there. You can have multiple boards as well, but if you want to showcase everything in a single board, or maybe if you have multiple teams, right, you have a project which has a support team as well. In that case, it might become too chaotic for you. So you would want to track in a different Kanban boards.
Yeah. So surely. And if I want to just report on the QA thing, then that's also possible, right? Only QA on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was just one example of how you can define your Kanban. So this was just one typical way. So like here you have feature story, right? So it will give you, if you're working on an iteration, like I'll just pick up a pen. So here it might tell you which 2 stories you are working for 2 iterations. Here you might have a risk section, right, which says this is the risk we see, and if it has been mitigated, you would want to probably cut it off, or maybe erase it off, or if it's getting overdue with the due dates, you can just start turning it red or something of that. This is how you want to visualize it. Okay?
There is also a RAG status wherein we write on schedule thing as green and at risk thing as amber. So there is no conflict of that.
No, you can. So there could be, but in case if it's green, right, in a RAG status, you would always move it to done. You would not need the RAG status. If it's amber, that's in progress, it would be an in progress section. Yes, if your RAG status is defining how good it is. So for example, if I'm saying that red, for me the RAG status means red is, the deadline has gone. So I expected it to be 2 hours, but it took me it is taking me 4 hours for some particular task. If that's the case, probably you would want to have another sticky notes, like, or maybe some color coding, or maybe some star, or some different kind of and you would want to define a legend. Like here we had stars, orange and green. So if you see, look at the legend below, it says orange one, the amber one is a defect, right? The pink one is blocked. or if there is a person drawn out. So this is, so there are, it's again completely on your creativity.
I got the idea, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Okay. So
And,
yesterday we also talked. Yeah.
Yeah, in Kanban,
Madhu,
we have the backlog, right?
right.
And that backlog
Not
is
started with backlog.
okay. So the first column says the next. I mean, the task to be taken next. That's the backlog, right?
Yes,
Or
yes.
backlog is different.
Yeah. No. So see, when you will start your iteration or your project, and if in particular iteration you are having 10 requirements, right? So all the 10 requirements would be in your not started. Once you start working, there could be a case where 2 of them are in done, 1 of them is in progress, and rest 7 of are in not started. The total count still remains the 10. But the basic backlog started from not started column.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this backlog is for the particular iteration, not the whole product backlog.
No, it would be convenient if you do it iteration wise. Otherwise, if you're doing it for a complete project, but if projects are real small ones, then it might make sense. But having it for the complete project would be really messy. I would not recommend going for that approach.
Okay.
Okay. So yesterday we were talking work in progress limits as well, where I mentioned that work in progress limit is a limit. If we reach that, we will not work beyond, right? So here this picture says if my work in progress limit is 3. So in the case if my in progress field, in the in progress column, there are more than 3 tasks, I'll stop picking up any new task. I'll make sure that of these 4 tasks or maybe 5 tasks completed, and then I pick any additional work. Because if there are more than 3 tasks in your in progress field, for me it's a clear indication that there are certain things which are going slow, or there are certain impediments which I need to work with my team to resolve.
Makes sense.
Right? So there could be a scenario, okay, I got stuck, okay, oh, this is not happening, let me park it in progress park, and I'll pick second, third, fourth. There could be risks, or there could be challenges we are not able to proceed ahead. But then if you don't have a limit, there could be a stage where everything is in progress and nothing isn't done. Right? So you need to have that limit defined.
So this work in progress limit is different for every project and the team size, right?
Right. Depending upon how complex your project is. So here comes product backlog. So this product backlog is analogous to your SRS document in a waterfall model. Okay. So what does a typical SRS model have? It has out of scope, in scope, right? It has complete list of features and what would it exactly that particular feature do, detailed description. Whereas product backlog would have all the requirements in the form of a story, right? It is a complete list of features, and based on your discussions with client, product owner, you prioritize that feature list. Okay. Now this backlog is maintained here by the product owner. So yesterday we were talking about the product owner. So the main task of product owner is to keep this product backlog prioritized up to date. So if there are certain requirements which were initially needed and now are no more needed, it's a duty of a product owner to remove them from the backlog. And if there are more requirements coming in, it's a duty of a product owner to add them. But then at the later stage, when these requirements are to be worked, they are detailed out in discussion with the team. He just enters probably 1 or 2 liner statements to describe a story, but the detailed description and the acceptance criteria would always be done in association with the team. He just owns it, but it's maintained and detailed out by a complete team. Right? Even all the defects, features, bug, improvement requests should be part of your product backlog. So the typical example, if I go back to my yesterday's example where I mentioned that if you realize that Josh is a common name and it should be added and your username field level validation should change from 2 to more, right? So this improvement request, ideally, if you're working in Agile, would go back in your product backlog. Product owner would prioritize this in discussion with his stakeholders. And if he feels that the priority of this particular improvement is very high, he will put it at the priority as P1. And once you once your team is ready to pick new requirements, it would be picked up and worked upon. Okay?
And who would be the product owner normally, whether the business analyst or the project manager or the one who usually communicate with the client, or who is the project owner?
So the ideal product owner role would be someone who has a strong command as it not that he is scolding people all the time. Strong command in a way that he is authoritative. He can take control. Right? If there is something which he cannot pass on to the team, he should not get pressurized. Like for example, if my client comes and tell me, no, this is what I want immediately, and team is, but I also want the other things to be worked on. Right? So if my team is working on 2 features and the client comes suddenly and says, okay, I want a 3rd feature as well, but he is not ready to take out one of the features from the currently active features, then product owners should be able to take a stand that no, my team is working on 2 features, they don't have so much bandwidth, we will not be able to pick those. Plus at the same time he should have complete knowledge of the system as well. Right? He should be the gatekeeper of the requirements. He should have that power, or he should be capable enough to act as a gatekeeper.
Okay, and who will be the product champion? I saw that name while I was taking the quiz. So I got confused who is the product champion and the product owner.
There is no term called product champion. That would be the wrong option in that case.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay. So the if you can sorry.
We can go ahead.
Yeah. So if you can look at the screen, this is a typical example of a product backlog. So if you look at the blue bar, you would see ID, theme as A and I want to, so that, notes, priority, status. Can somebody quickly tell me what would be a theme?
Theme would be what? A scenario or
No.
no, yeah. Theme. It's one of the division or LOB or
Yes. Yes. So theme is nothing but the domain we were talking about.
Yeah.
You just mentioned that feature list would be divided on basis of their domains like DBA, probably backend or maybe testing or something of that sort. So it's a domain, UI. So UX would be one theme. So all the features, all the story requirements or all the requirements which would need a UI change would be one part of one theme. They would be called, again, this would be a metaphor that teams can use. Like some of them might be using UI, some of them might be using UX, right? That is theme. So collection of a similar kind of requirements is called theme. So collection of all the UI related requirements would be one theme. Collection of all the DBA related requirements would be another theme. Okay. So now if I move to third column, which is as a, so let's talk about another example that we were discussing yesterday. As a HR manager, I should be able to do a search so that I can view the resumes, right? So as a is a persona. So my as a here in this case would be HR manager. What I want to actually perform, what is my expectation out of the system? I want to perform a search. So that is, why do you want to perform a search? Right? So that I can view the resume, or maybe I can download the resume. Okay? Then notes is something you want to mention some PS or some special additional notes you would want to mention. That's a typical thing. This is optional. You might have, you might not have. Priority is must. So there are different ways you can prioritize your product backlog. You can simply use the terms critical, high, showstopper. These are the terms you can use, or maybe simple priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. These are the terms. Another priority term that we generally use in Agile is called MOSCO. MOSCO, the full form of MOSCO is must have, should have, could have, would have. Must have is priority 1. Should have, okay, it's good to have. Could have, I can think of having it. Would have, okay, if time permits, I would think about it. Okay, so these are the few priorities which we'll be again talking about in the later stage as well. But this is how you can prioritize. And then again, status is your to maintain the traceability, done, in progress, open, pending, waiting for the response from clarity, or something of that sort, whatever you need. So this is a typical structure of a product backlog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A quick Annie's question. Who determines how much of the product backlog can be delivered in the upcoming sprint? Product owner, Scrum Master, team, project manager.
Can be delivered to whom? Can be delivered to the client, or in the market? Yeah, in the client, to the client. Okay, can be delivered in
the client, right?
Okay.
Just let me know when you want to see the answer.
The product owner, I think.
Okay, and Anita, what about you?
I would say the same, because he knows exactly the most of the product. Because see, Scrum Master and Project Manager is basically into the operation thing, and team is team. Wow.
Yes. Now
I would have gone
let me
the last with this.
Okay,
Okay.
let's come back to the product backlog definition. So here what we decided was discussed was product owner owns it, he prioritizes it, but all the detailing out and all the acceptance criteria are written with by the team in discussion with the product owner. And it's the team, so once the product owner prioritizes, the team pick up those prioritized list of features, and it's they who decide which features, how they will work. Product owner defines the priority, but it doesn't command team to work on those features. It's the team who picks up the features. It's again goes back to the Agile Manifesto or Agile Principle, empowered teams.
But isn't it? It will be very risky. I mean,
risky? Do you think that would be risky?
who determines how much of the product backlog can be delivered in the upcoming sprint? Now,
See. So, okay, let's understand a typical software delivery. Okay, so what do? You have a website, you understand the requirement, you estimate it based on the bandwidth you have and the time you have, right?
yes.
In the case of Agile, the time is fixed. That is maybe 2 to 3 weeks or maybe 4 weeks. I know my bandwidth. So if I have 8 team members, 8 into 8 into 15 is my bandwidth. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me check. So my bandwidth or velocity is 8 into 8 into 15. So 15 days I have 8 hours per day, and 8 is the total number of team members. This is my total number of hours available with me. So now I have to pick feature A and feature B. So in my product backlog, I would know when I pick A, I would have estimated it, right? I would have assigned story points to it. So now I say 3 is the story point and this is 5. The complexity has been defined. Right? Now, from an experience level or from probably discussion with team, I would come to a point that 3 takes probably 18 hours and 5 would take 25 hours. Right? So the sum should be equal, and then I would have some deviations. The effective working time would be 6 hours. Based on all those calculations, I would know the final bandwidth that I have. Right? So this is something team would decide. Product owner would not know, and if somebody is missing from your team for that particular iteration, the count would be 7, and this is what not product owner would be aware of. You would, as a team, would be aware of.
True.
Right? So it's team who decides what work they want, how much capacity of work they can pick. Product owner can only give them the prioritized list of features. He can help them understand the requirement. He can help them give the acceptance criteria. So even when the acceptance criteria are given, it's the team's responsibility to cross-question them. We will play a game next Saturday. This will give you a very good idea. So there is next module is an agile estimation. So we will be playing few games in that.
Okay.
So it will give you a clear idea how this exactly happens. But now I think it should give you some amount of idea that it's the team who is doing that, not the product owner. Product owner, assume product owner is as something like your BA, right? He's just getting a requirement, prioritized list of requirement from the client. He doesn't know what is the technicality involved, how much QA effort is involved. He doesn't know anything about it. It's you who has to estimate that. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, then moving ahead. Okay, now sprint backlog. Now we know what's a product backlog. Product backlog is a complete list of features that I would deliver in my project. So sprint backlog is nothing but my list of features or list of requirements I'm working for a current sprint. So in my previous example, so A and B would be part of my committed backlog items. Feature A and feature B. Okay. Now you will break up that feature A. So for example, if my feature A was a creation of a login screen, what could be the typical tasks involved? Creation of a UI, implementing the login functionality, implementing the field level validations, having the landing page. This is again from the dev perspective, but from a QA perspective, what would be the tasks? Other tasks: creation of the test cases, creation of the test data, execution of a test case, and then defect testing. Right? So you would break this backlog item A into tasks not started. So your A would have all that. And this is again, you create a typical Kanban. So you would, once you start working on the requirement on the test case creation, your one of the tasks from the task not started would come and you fall in task in progress. Once you are working on the UI, that particular task would come into in progress field. And as you complete, you start moving to the task completed. So this is how the sprint backlog is created. Okay, so sprint backlog is a complete responsibility of the team to maintain it. Okay, so because tasks obviously team would know, no other member in the team would be. So your Scrum Master might be helping you in managing the sprint backlog, but it's team who is actually owner and responsible for your sprint backlog, and this is the sprint backlog you refer to in your daily Scrum meetings, because you would be discussing your day-to-day tasks in your daily Scrum meetings. So this is the sprint backlog would be referred. It is also called, these backlogs are also called as information radiator, because this will give a very high level idea of where the project is. Right, how things are progressing. If there is a certain particular item which is in progress state from quite some time, since it's visible to you, it's in your team area, you would catch it very quickly.
This color, this gray and amber or orange or amber, whatever, I mean, this has some significance here, or just?
Yeah, no, not just, it's just a depiction. So for example, we were talking about QA and dev and support tasks, so maybe orange you can put for all the support tasks, blue for all the QA related tasks, red for all the development tasks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's just a way how you can represent it. Or maybe you can decide a color on the basis of theme for particular, like for particular requirement. If you have a UI related task, if your division is on the basis of UI, all the UI related items would be on green sticky note. Right, so you can, or you understand that this particular task has a UI creation that way.
And we need to have both product backlog and sprint backlog.
Right. If you don't have a product backlog, how would you create a sprint backlog?
Right,
because
right.
You're fully
that's basically my SRS. Yeah, that's my overall, I mean, what I want to achieve, the SRS, I mean, the main document.
Yeah, so your SRS is product backlog.
And sprint backlog is the progress to show that, the status.
Right.
This understood well.
So your sprint backlog would be only for one particular sprint. So you are done with the sprint, it would be recreated. So
but
Agile, in Agile, we have, sorry,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, that was an accidental. So you can start to maintain the documentation, you can just click a pic of your sprint backlog on a daily basis, and probably you would just want to circulate it to the team so that they are aware what they need to do and what they need not to do. Maybe somebody who is off location or at the client location, just to give him or her a sense of what's going on. Maybe a quick glance to the upper higher management as well. Okay. Yeah. Any questions, Masur? Okay. So till now we have been talking about.
If we get
Sorry,
any,
can you repeat that?
yeah, if we get any bugs in a particular sprint, that the scope of that bug is also should be completed within the sprint.
It depends upon the kind of a defect. So maybe if a defect is I am unable to even log in, it needs to be reprioritized, right? Probably P1s and P2s need to be closed then and there. So you would plan in a similar way, right? You would have some buffer for the defect fixing as well. Or if there comes up some defect which is an improvement, actually not a defect, so that would go into your product backlog. Or maybe there is a defect which has come up and it can only be fixed once other requirement get fixed or is completed, right? So it will go into your product backlog. Okay? Okay. So now till now we have been talking about information radiators. So we mentioned that product backlog and a sprint backlog is a kind of an information radiator. So there is again another information radiator which is called sprint burndown chart. Okay. It helps you understand how smooth your current sprint is going. How smooth in a way that if I have a requirement X, I thought it will take 5 hours, but it took me 10 hours. So let me just show you a sequence. Yeah. So this is a typical burn down chart. One of the examples of the burn down chart. In this, the X field gives you the timeline in the form of weeks or maybe in form of days, whichever is convenient to read. And y-axis gives you the R, right? So when you, in this example, if you see the sprint started on 12th March, right? And the total estimate was 425 hours for this particular sprint. Okay? Right? So a typical burn down of effort on a day basis or on a week basis would have been is depicted by a red line. So since this is straight and this is a very typical scenario or very practical scenario where there are no hiccups. And whereas blue line actually tells you the actual progress, how it went. So things were going fine till 12th July, but after that, since you see the blue line goes up, so there was some additional hours spent on some particular task, or there was a bleeding happening. So it could be possible because I estimated something for 5 hours. There is a please Google beep coming in between. Can you put yourself on mute, please? Okay. So the blue line went up because I estimate the one reason could be I estimated something for this part. I estimated something for 6 hours and it took me 10 hours. Right? Or maybe my team was not updating it correctly. They actually spent 2 hours in actual, but they just updated 1 hour in it. And they kept it open for quite some time. They were not calculating it properly, so it went up. But then after things went fine, it closed on time. Let me just show you a few other okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In Burndown Chart, we have been using Jira to generate the Burndown Chart for a project. We have a practical problem. Say, for example, we take up 10 tasks in a sprint and decided the end date for the sprint and house, etc. So in the middle of the sprint, say we completed 5 tasks, and during the testing, there are some 4 bugs are generated, and out of the 4 bugs, so some 2 bugs are high priority, and we have to fix it within the sprint. But those bugs are dragging too much time, so it affects this Burndown Chart. So how should we deal with this?
See, ideally, your Burndown chart should not be same as the red line. If it is, there is a serious problem in your project, right? Because no matter what, how efficient you are in your planning, you can't plan exactly what, or it can't be as smooth as a straight line, right? So if there are certain deviation which is expected, but then you should, if you're picking up 2 defects which are taking your lot of time, then you should go back to your product owner, and obviously your product owner would know that because he is part of your day-to-day conversations, he is part of your stand-up meetings, and he sees that. So ask him to talk to the stakeholders to take out one of the lesser prior, similar, or maybe the similar effort story from the your current sprint. So now, since you are saying that after 5 you found 2 defects which were taking a lot of your time, so maybe if you are spending 8 hours on those 2 defects, and 6th and 7th story in requirement in total was equal to 8 hours, so you would take out 8 hours, 6th and 7th stories, and just work on those defects. This will give you a better Burndown chart. So that's why we say we need information radiators, and you need to be very transparent in what you are doing.
Yeah, okay, it's clear.
Yeah. Now I would just show you a few Burndown charts, and I would want you to tell me what does this Burndown chart depict. Okay. Can you tell me what does this Burndown chart depict?
Quite a nice estimation, I would say.
Yeah, it was the sprint which was there was very smooth. Yeah, this is a perfect case.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's a perfect case. If it repeats on every sprint, then there is a problem.
There is a problem, exactly.
Okay, now hold on. I mean, I don't understand why you both are saying it's a problem. Because, I mean, I understand that it's not an ideal world, but problem as in what? I mean, the client will be happy, everyone will be happy, right? That everything is going smoothly.
Right. In that, see, this case you would only get if you have everything was smooth. That means you did not even find any defect. Right. If you are not finding defects, there is some problem with your testing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or maybe your team is fooling around, or maybe trying to showcase you that I mean, you know, they are, so if they estimated 3 hours and they were supposed to burn 3 hours a day, they are just putting it in, but in actual there is something fishy around there. Because this would never be a case that team was supposed to spend 3 hours on something and they actually spent 3 hours. And even if there were no, and there would never be a case where there are no defects. So there would be some deviation, right? You might, for that pre-testing, you might plan for 5 hours, and it is not possible that for defect fixing, actual 5 hours went in.
Yeah.
right? This could be one typical example that your testing is not efficient. Probably you need to look into testing strategy. How team is testing. Any idea? And what does this depict?
This is typically what Mathas was quoting, right? I mean, he had some 2 high priority defects which take long time.
So somewhere around November, there were few hiccups. There were certain, there was maybe a scope creep, or too many defects were found, or maybe some estimations went haywire, right? But then at the end, you were able to meet the project scope smoothly.
I think they are taking MMDD format. So I think it's all December. 3rd December till 14th December it is. So what I was saying that, you know, I mean just like that. I mean,
this is a burndown chart with the example we put in. This is for very huge. I mean, I think it's showing it for the complete project, but journal typical burndown chart would be for few weeks.
Yeah, this is also showing for 1 week only. I think it's from 3rd December till 14th December.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yeah, somewhere around 11th December.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I got.
No. That happens typically.
Okay.
So what you were saying that things were fine till probably 7th of December, and then it starts probably that too many defects started coming up and the fixing time taking place, and by 11th
or maybe estimation went wrong. When they were doing the estimation, teams decided that they would be able to complete some task in 2 hours, but they actually took 8 hours to do that. And so obviously the remaining effort for that particular would increase, right?
Yeah.
You're spending more effort, and you start spending more time. Actual and the remaining starts varying.
So the lesson learned would be that in the similar situation in the next sprint, probably the red line should be going a bit up.
No, the red line remains fixed. Red would not. There would be no change in the red line. So here, the learning would from this chart would be that you guys need, as a team, you guys go back and think what went wrong. So around this time, which stories did more effort, took more effort. So it's like Matthew was talking about Jira. So Jira would give you a report of actual time that was punched in, and what was the the original time that was punched in, expected, and what was the actual time. So if one story initial fed in was 2 hours, but the actual time that was fed in was 8 hours, it will give you that list. So that is where you need to go and sit with your team why it took more than 6 hours. Obviously in your daily planning meeting you would have that data as well. So in your next planning meeting for the next sprint, you need to make sure that you are mitigating that 6 hours somewhere. I mean, as in 6 hours as in the problem area is being catered to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, Mathu, you were saying something?
Yeah. So red will be the estimated and blue will be the actual.
Yes.
So the estimation, what you are saying, that red line cannot change because the estimation cannot change, as in the time and the time cannot change for the sprint, right?
Right. So in so if in between you think that you were estimating something will take 2 hours, but before you could even start that, you realize that it will take 5 hours. Right? You went ahead and changed your 2 to 5 hours. In this case, it will readjust itself because the 425 would change to 430 hours. So the beginning point would again change, but the end has to be at the 0 hours. So it would probably incline itself again, but it would still be straight. Because the total, it would increase the total number of hours as well, na?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So burn-up chart is exactly the opposite. So burn-down chart gives you a remaining effort. Burn-up charts give you the effort which has been spent. Okay. So example is if the team finishes a story with 3 points on Tuesday and a story with 5 points on Thursday, the chart for the week showing Monday through Friday would display 0 for Monday and 3 for Tuesday, because this was how you estimated that on Tuesday 3 hours would be I need to spend three story points I need to complete, and I achieved it, so for me Tuesday would be 0.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is burn-up charts is again not very important topic. This is generally not asked. The only kind of a question that you can expect around is, as one of the options, which of the following is not an information radiator, or which of the following is an information radiator, like burn-up chart, burn-down chart, product backlog, sprint backlog, or maybe none of these, something of that sort. Yeah?
And okay, yeah. So burn up, burn down, and the sprint backlog, they are all information radiator, I would say.
Information radiator.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, so what is process tailoring? So process tailoring, as a typical name suggests, it is reframing your processes so that they best fit into the current situation. Right? One of the example could be, initially when I started with my project, I thought that we would be checking in the code every 12 hours, maybe, or before I leave off, somebody leaves office, every 8 hours, okay? But then when I started working continuously, and I was in my last stage, probably UX testing was happening, since the number of defects coming was so fast and the fixing was happening so fast, and the client was reviewing it parallelly, UX team was reviewing it parallelly, I had to deliver it at a very short span of time. I will have to now check in every 30 minutes. So based on your situation, based on your requirement, you tailored your process. Okay.
No,
So typical example are adding, removing work products and tasks. So as we have been talking even in the methods example, so I was supposed to work on 10 requirements for a sprint, and when I was working on the first 5, I found 2 defects which were consuming a lot of time. So I removed 6 and 7. So that is a typical tailoring example. Changing milestones, what work products will be made available at each milestone. Maybe I'm changing my bundle release. I'm changing on my release date because of some change in the market feature, or maybe similar kind of product was released and I want to have a better product, or maybe give my end users an additional feature. But my team thinks that they will not be able to deliver the additional feature in the same time frame. So I change my date. Right? Responsibilities are for review and approval, change in your RACI diagrams. Okay, there were third parties involved and they were not very proactive and they were not meeting the responsibilities on time. So maybe I, in discussion with client, said, okay, rather than that person doing it, we will do it for you. So that's your RACI change. And then changes in your reporting progress, performing measurements or something. Maybe burn-down charts were not clear enough, so you created a new format for report, which maybe a test report, which gives a better picture of planned task, or something of similar kind. A test report was being sent on, or maybe you change the frequency of the test report. Okay. Okay, a quick question. A project team is busy in analyzing the current organizational process and making changes to the processes as per project requirements. Which activity are they performing?
Yep.
Process tailoring.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Hmm.
So continuous improvements. How you can improve your current processes, how you can tailor your processes. What are the few things that you must have so that you can improve and, or maybe, as we said, tailor processes?
Is that a question?
Yeah.
How do we improve our processes, current processes?
What are the basic things that you think you would need so that you can even gauge that you need to improve your processes?
Yeah, so my first thing would be to, get into the agile from waterfall.
Okay. Any other input?
I didn't get your question, sir.
Okay. So how do you think you can improve? Like if everybody keeps telling me, Shuchi, you need to improve, Shuchi, you need to improve, but they're not telling me what to improve and how to improve. What do you think? Those are few things, right? So my question is, I should know what to improve. Right?
Yeah.
And I need to have a continuous feedback.
Yeah.
Right? So for a continuous improvement, a continuous feedback is must. And if you're getting a continuous feedback, you have an improved agile environment. Continuous integration and continuous development is one kind where you would be giving in regular feedbacks for your code. If your code, when merged in with some other code, breaks down, that's the time where you need to go back and see what is wrong with your code quality. Right? Daily stand-up meetings. So in daily stand-up meeting, when I am discussing what I did yesterday, where am I stuck and what I'll do today, I would, when I tell my peers that I am stuck here, I would get some inputs from them. Okay, you are doing this wrong. You should not do this way. Let's sit. This should be done in this way. Right? Probably for me, one of the improvement areas you might think of is, okay, you are giving us less examples. Give us more examples. Right? So when we are having a feedback from you after each session, that's a continuous improvement for us. Iteration demos, this will help us improve because we'll be getting a feedback on our product we have delivered to the client. Iteration retrospective, it will help us smoothen our processes internally, how we as a team are working. There could be a conflict between two people, right? If in my iteration retrospective, people start to get personal, it is a sign for a Scrum Master and a higher management to ring the bell and think what's going wrong, right? To be alert, right? Then iteration planning. So every time when I have a retrospective and I'll know what went wrong and what is going good and what needs to be done more, I'll plan accordingly. Okay? So any questions till now?
It's clear.
Yeah, clear.
Okay. So next is
Here,
multiple.
The feedback for the improvement is from the feedback from client or within the team?
So the iteration demo would be a feedback from a client. Iteration retrospective would be a feedback from a team as well as from the client. There might be the client might give you a feedback that we are having too much of calls. People are calling, too many people are reaching out to me. I don't want that. So it can be from both, but iteration demo would be a typical client feedback. Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So yesterday I parked a question which was asked by Anadya. What kind of planning do we do? So today I'm going to answer. So there are 3 levels of planning basically. But so when we talk about Agile and Onion, I'll show you more levels of planning. So one is the release planning. Second is the iteration planning. Third is the daily planning. So what do you think would be a release planning?
But I'm going to release it.
So when you have, yeah, how you're going to release it. So now I have a product backlog. What are the set of features that I would release every time to my customer? What kind of a bundle it would be? Right? So the example that we discussed yesterday was, one of my release was a release for just a women's wear section by Snapdeal. Second release could be complete women wear men and kids section. Third would be living area, furniture, right? So this is my release planning. My iteration planning would be, now I know I have these requirements to be delivered in a particular release, and this release would have, let's assume, 10 iterations. And in each iterations, which requirements I would work and how I would work. Daily planning would be how I am implementing my tasks. If you look at the example, assume this cuboid as a backlog where one small cuboid is adding to the iterations, like I would be working on these 2 cuboids, right? And my deliverable is again a mix of similar cuboids. Like they may be different. In one of the things I might be working on just UI, one of the I would have just created an API. This is a different kind of requirements which were there, and now I have bundled them together and I am delivering it. Once I deliver it in that release, I get a feedback from a client and they again follow a cycle. Okay, so there are 3 levels of planning involved: release, iteration, and daily. Okay. Okay, so I'll just quickly read it. Release planning is nothing but where you consider user stories or themes that are to be delivered or developed. As updated throughout the project, it reflects the current expectations that you have from the product. It's typically done within a 3 to 6 months of horizon. Iteration is typically 2 to 4 weeks, and it's a task that are prioritized and executed to transport the feature request into the working and the tested software. Then a daily planning is a typical Scrum meeting is your daily planning, where you have a 15-minute Scrum meeting, or in XP for 5 minutes. It helps you to note down the list of things that are important for you and what you will do about it. Okay? Now comes the Agile planning. So Agile planning, that as we were talking, there are 5 levels. So in a typical Agile, we start from we don't even start from a portfolio level. We generally start from a product planning, product, roadmap, release, iteration, day. So strategy is maybe a market research. Okay, how are e-commerce websites doing? Snapdeal and Jabong are already out. What are the challenges people are facing with those 2 sites? I just went out to people. I did some surveys. I am strategizing it. Portfolio is, okay, now I know people concerned. What I actually want, do I want to go with just a furniture kind of an e-commerce system, or do I want to get into both clothing and both bed and bath thing, right? Then comes the product where I actually decide, okay, fair enough, I just want to go with the clothing section. Roadmap. Roadmap is where how you decide how would you release it to the release it in the market. In release 1 I would do this, release 2 I'll do this, release 3 I'll do this, and release is again set of features that would be delivered in a particular release. Then comes the iteration. So there are multiple days in one iteration, multiple iterations in one release, multiple releases in a roadmap, multiple roadmaps in a product. Or multiple products, or maybe if I decide, okay, I'll keep Bed and Bath as a separate product and I'll release it under 2 brand names. That would be my portfolio. Clear?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's clear.
Yeah. So this is a Scrum planning meeting. I think we have talked enough about it. So can you quickly summarize it? Can somebody, the Mathur or maybe Aditya, can you just quickly summarize that for me? No? Okay, let me do that for you guys. Now, you know, now you have a set of prioritized list, you have a product backlog. Okay? So, based on your capacity, just a second. So now based on your team capacity, based on the total time available, based on the priority, based on the current status of the project, right, and based on the competition, you will pick up certain requirements you need to do. So this is what we were discussing initially as well. So my project has 10 requirements based on my, and we are 5 people in the team, but one of them is on leave, so I am 4. So each of us has 4 into 8 into 5, 40 into 160 hours of capacity in 1 week. So I can deliver 160 hours of effort in 1 week. And in 160 hours, probably this would not be even 8, this would be even, let's assume 5, because there would be lunch hours, there would be meetings and everything. Right? So I can deliver 100 maybe. Right? So, which features I should pick up so that I can deliver them completely in these 100 hours. So I decide I'll pick up story number 2 and story number 3. So these are again high prioritized items. I would not pick up the ones which are low, even if they fall under my 101. I first focus on P1s and P2s. Okay. So based on this, I pick up story number 2 and 3. Now I have decided which requirements I need to work on. I will start discussing these requirements with my product owner and try to get the complete details about it. Right? That I'll decide, try to get what is the goal of having this, why do I need that requirement, what is the acceptance criteria. Like for example, for women's wear, my acceptance criteria could be a person is able to buy it and is able to make a payment and the product is finally delivered. This is my acceptance criteria. So I would only know this in discussion with the with my client. Another acceptance criteria that I could add is if somebody is buying 2 clothes from the same brand, I offer 10% discounts. Somebody buying more than 5, I offer 20% discount, and somebody who is buying more than 10,000, I am offering 25% discount flat. So these are the things which you will discuss with your client, not with your client but with your product owner, and get them detailed out, based on which you would be creating your test requirements and you would have your coding done. So everything else for these requires, the requirement number 2 and 3 would be done in your sprint planning, sprint planning meeting, or you also call it Scrum planning meeting. Okay, so this is how you do your Scrum planning meeting. So generally this starts in your N-1 sprint. So currently if you are in sprint number 2, so the planning meeting of sprint 3 would start in sprint 2 in the last 1 week or maybe last 2-3 days. Your team would start spending some fixed amount of time or some part of their total effort, total time available in doing this exercise. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You said about planning for the N-1 sprint at the end of the sprint. Normally, we'll be on practically we'll be on pressure in the release of the sprint. But how can we take some time to plan for the next sprint?
Why do you think we would be in pressure?
That's how it goes normally.
See, if you are working, if you have implemented Agile correctly, you would be doing a regression testing on a daily basis. You would be testing your product parallelly, right? And you would be giving a continuous feedback on almost on a daily basis, right? So yes, you are right, in certain way there is a pressure, but if you are working Agile and if all the things have been implemented correctly, even in the last week of time, you would not have, firefighting kind of a situation, because you are, every day the code is being checked and every day you are running your automated regression suite. Right, every day you are doing a manual test on the existing requirements, you have paired your team, you are working on it. The feedback cycles are so short that defects are found at a very early stage and they are just being implemented. And the final effort on testing could be just regression testing or maybe just doing the end-to-end kind of a testing. And we are only talking about, in the last 3-4 days, we are talking about maybe 2 hours per person, which is not a very high time. And when we are time boxing or everything, so 2 hours is something typically a person can easily take out. So if there are 8 people in the team, so you are asking just 16 hours from them on a daily basis. Does that answer you?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so daily Scrum meeting, as we have already talked about it, I'll just quickly read it. It's time box. We do not exceed the daily stand-up meeting or daily Scrum meeting for more than 15 minutes. So when we are approaching 15 minutes, there is always a Scrum Master or a gate or maybe a controller who keeps telling people that we are running out of time. In this, everybody is engaged. It's not a typical status meeting, so it's an informatory meeting. So you're telling everybody what you're doing, what are the obstacles, and what you would be doing today. It's not that you are looking at a team Scrum Master or maybe a team coach and just giving him your status. It's a discussion kind of a meeting. But one thing that you need to make sure is, since this is just a 15-minute meeting, if there is an obstacle encountered by some person and you know the solution, you do not discuss that solution in that meeting, because otherwise those 15 minutes would just go into the solution part itself. So you don't get into a solution mode. Only thing that you do is, okay, I can help you with it. We can talk later about it. Right? So the person who is stuck knows whom to reach out to get his problem resolved. That helps both, right? So everyone can lead the meeting, not just the Scrum Master, as I told, since this is not a status meeting. So if anybody can lead this meeting. This meeting is the starting point for the day. Afterwards, everyone feels energized and can start working. So since if this happens as the first thing in our day, everybody is clear what they have to do. Even if they got stuck somewhere before they left for the previous day, they would know which person to reach out, and they will just quickly go ahead and start resolving their problem, rather than wasting few hours in the morning roaming around here and there, and then probably after 2 hours they do this meeting and they understand, oh, I have already wasted my half of the day, and now I know which person to reach it and what was the solution. Right, so this should be the first thing in the morning. So, right, and the time should be fixed. If you have decided to be at 9 in the morning, make sure it starts at 9. If you are rescheduling it, there should be proper reason why you are rescheduling it. Yeah. So in one of my projects, with the way we used to do that Scrum meeting was at the end of the meeting, we used to ask the morale, do the morale check as well. So we used to just ask how is everybody feeling, and we used to have smileys drawn for that person. If somebody is not feeling good or maybe sick for some reason, so we used to have that sad smiley. He's just okay, not very happy, but he's just okay about something. So we used to have this straight face smileys. If somebody is very happy, we used to have a happy. And then in our stand-up meetings, we used to have a champion of the week. So somebody who resolved maximum problems, or somebody who performed extraordinarily or was of great help to people is given the champion of the week. So that's again a morale boost, because you were appreciated in front of 10 people and you have your name flashing in there. And we used to also have fine system, like somebody who came late, and we used to charge him 10 rupees. And once those some good amount of fine was collected, we used to do party from that money. Okay. So these are various techniques you can have your daily Scrum meeting, just to make it not very boring, little exciting.
Lively, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So these questions, that what have you completed, what do you plan, and why, what is getting in your way. Today, the next topic is sprint review meeting. So by now, I'm sure you guys would be really aware of what sprint review meeting is. So sprint review meeting is nothing where it's the meeting at the end of a sprint where you showcase what you have developed during that 2 or 3 weeks of time. So you would have your product owner, your complete team, the stakeholders, the end users probably, and that particular meeting. And you would be showcasing, end user is not the customer, not that customer. I mean, for Snapdeal, not you and me, but the end user, the stakeholder who are spending their money. Okay? So who would be part of that meeting, and you would be demonstrating your development effort to them. So after this meeting, you would take their feedback and you would sense what went right and what is something that they would want to change. Like, while you were showcasing them, somebody was using Mac machine and somebody was using Windows machine when they were taking the webinar, and this found that while using a Mac machine, the font is not very readable as it should be. So it might come to you as a feedback and it would be a part of your requirement. Okay? So, and when it happens again at the end of each sprint. So this is the purpose, the basic purpose of having a review meeting is to get the decision of good to go or not to go. Was that sprint accepted or not? Okay, you might have some feedback, like some changes, but there could be a case where your sprint just was complete disaster. You could not complete any of the feature. Every feature was just 50% or 60%. If that was the case, ideally we should not be even showcasing it. But if that happens, your sprint would be not to go. Case, okay. So sprint review meeting is a live demonstration, not a report. Product owner reviews the commitments made at the sprint planning meeting and declares which items he now considers to be done. So this is part from a book, but I disagree to it, since product owner is involved everywhere. He's part of your daily planning meeting, he's part of your sprint planning meetings, so he is aware of what actually is happening. It's the stakeholders who are not aware of, they are not part of your planning meetings. Right, so I differ on this line. So for me, a sprint review meeting would be where product owners and stakeholders are involved, or the representatives from the stakeholders are involved. It provides an opportunity to inspect and adapt the product as it emerges and iteratively define everyone's understanding of the requirements. Clear? This is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Okay. So last part of any typical sprint would be a retrospective. So this retrospective is an effort of a team to improve themselves. So in this retrospective, it is a 1-hour meeting where everybody in the team gathers together in a room. They have they create a whiteboard which may be penned by either a Scrum Master or probably a product owner, which will be divided into 2 columns, positives and areas to improve. So in positives you might say, you would mention things that were really good and you would want to continue. Or retrospective could be, or a delta could be, okay, we were checking in the code in every 8 hours, I want it to be done at every 16 hours maybe. It was too fast. Since we have a very complex storage this iteration, and 8 hours is not working here, right? So every team member has to speak. It is mandatory. It should not be a case that people are not attentive. Somebody is busy on WhatsApp, or somebody is busy looking at manicuring her nails or something of that sort, right? So everybody should be attentive and everybody should speak. If they have work, they would definitely have something to contribute in there. Right, and since it's a whole team participation, but one thing that Scrum Master needs to make sure is retrospectives don't go into the personal level. It should never be a case that Sham says Ram did not support me, I went to him with the problem and he did not answer me correctly. This is not retrospective. There should be no pinpointing. If that's the case, that needs to be dealt individually. That's a conflict management. Retrospectives should focus completely on the improvement of the team as a whole team, not as an individual. Okay? And it's good to have customers if possible in these meetings. There may be certain things that customer might add to, like increasing the frequency of calls. This could be one of his inputs. It's good to have. If he is available, it's good. Otherwise, product owner, Scrum Master and team are mandatory people to be present.
Yeah, tell me one thing. The Scrum Master is basically a person who is managing this whole sprint, right? Typically, in a traditional project, who is called a project manager. Is it the same here? Scrum Master.
Who is basically not a manager here. He is basically a servant leader here. See, since he doesn't even have authority to tell people what they need to do and what they don't need to do. It's just that he is making sure that people are not going beyond, or maybe people are working in the direction they need to work. Even in the conflict management, he doesn't get involved till the 4th level of conflict. When he sees that there is a conflict, he tries to observe that conflict and remain silent. So he's a servant leader in Agile. He's the one who is making sure things are happening and there are no distractions while teams are working, because he is not, Scrum Master doesn't have that authority. They don't have the managing authority. Basically, they're not the leaders. They are the servant leaders. They guide the team, they mentor the team, but they are not leading the team.
So suppose if I now want to implement Agile in my team, so me and my counterpart in Dev, So we both have to have a Scrum Master, right? I mean, he's the one who is going to implement the agility.
Scrum Master should be the one who has, right. So he should be the one who has insight of both dev and QA team. You can't have a Scrum Master for a dev team, you can't have a Scrum Master for a test team. And before I explain this slide, I'll give you a picture. I need a pen. Give me 1 minute, let me draw some things. Okay, so the typical way I would want to do, there are various ways you can do a retrospection. So one way could be, I'm trying to draw a boat, but if it doesn't look like a boat, please ignore it. So consider this boat as your project and consider this water as the impediments. Okay. So now things you should continue doing would be the ones which are making your boat float, move ahead against the wind. Right? So to move a boat, wind should be in this direction and should put a pressure at this point so that it moves ahead of this shaft, right? So things we continue doing, we put it this way. This is one of the representations, okay? So these are the parts which were going, which should continue doing it, and which are very good. Here, the impact of wind on the boat reduces, it makes it move, but then the impact is little less. So these would be the areas where we can continue doing it, even if they stop, they would not mind. Right? This part would be something, things which are happening in project, they are sad about it, then that's not impacting their day-to-day life. Right? And these are the things which we should stop doing it, which can be a part of, which can be an element for discussion, and these are the things which we should just stop doing it immediately, because they are droning my ship. They are just not working for my project. This is one way of representing your or doing your retrospective in a visual manner. So you can just go ahead and draw, and you can just ask people to come with a sticky notes or maybe a colored pens and start writing. So start doing it, stop doing it, continue doing it. Sad about start would be here. This part would be start doing it. Stop is something, okay, we are doing good, but I mean, we are not liking it, but it has not started impacting us badly. So this part would be something which is impacting us real badly, and I'm just very mad about it. Another way of doing a retrospective is sad, glad, mad. Mad is something I should stop doing it immediately. Sad is I would, if this thing stops, I would be happy. But if it's working, I'm just okay about it. Glad, I'm very happy about it, and I would just love to do this stuff again. This is another way of doing a retrospective. Okay? Yeah, clear? Any questions around the sprint retrospective?
Clear.
Clear.
Yeah. So we talk about in a retrospective, typical retrospectives, we talk about start, stop, and continue.
Yeah.
Product owner. Okay, so here are the roles and responsibilities. I thought I moved them to the next session. So we are going to talk about the product owner here. Let me just take my pen again. Okay. The first role that we are going to talk about is product owner today. So what do you think are the responsibilities of product owner? Responsibility 1, requirements, right? Getting all the requirements. 2, priority, setting the priority. 3, maintaining backlog, maintaining product backlog. 4, act as a gatekeeper, right? 5, channel bridge between or channel between team and stakeholders, right? I'll just quickly call them users. So POAs are 1. So the responsibility of product owner is meant to maintain the product backlog. He prioritizes the requirements and acts as a gatekeeper for the requirements, which requirement goes first and setting the priority. He acts as a channel between the team and a user or a stakeholder. He's a communication bridge between them. Okay, so if stakeholders consider something of their interest and they really need it bad, it is his responsibility to guide, to pass it to the team through product backlog. Yeah. So let's read one by one. Single person responsible for maximizing the return on investment of the development of effort. How will this happen? When he is prioritizing the backlog, it's his duty to put the feature on the top which would give the maximum return of an ROI. So if it's something which is giving, so if the priority is incorrect, the ROI would obviously decrease. Right? He is responsible for the product vision, because since he is maintaining the product backlog, which has the complete set of features, he is responsible for maintaining the product vision. Prioritizing of the product final arbiter of the requirement question. So it's the team comes and questions product owner. So if when the acceptance criteria are listed down, it's the discussion between the product owner and the team. Okay, decides whether continue development. As I told, he is the gatekeeper. If you think that there is something when we need to stop and understand, or maybe there was a requirement which when they started working on, they thought they were clear, but as they started working on it, there were certain areas which were getting uncovered. So would he want to continue developing that part of or not? It's his decision to decide that. He considers stakeholders' interest. Okay, so the first role that we have in Agile project is a product owner. Then is a Scrum development team. The maximum or the typical size of a product of a Scrum team is 7 plus minus 2 members. Because if there are more members, the chances of communication and collaboration decreases, because otherwise it would be a large team and most of them would not talk to each other. So the typical size would be, so if you have a huge project, it is better to have multiple Scrum teams based on the domains. One Scrum team can be formed by a sport team, another can be formed by a dev team, third can be formed by a testing team, and then there is a Scrum of Scrum happening where all the representatives from the team come and speak together. Okay, so the dev team would know what is the QA team doing, QA would know what is dev and sport doing, and vice versa. Okay, so these are the cross-functional teams. It's not that the 7 plus 2 members are, when I talk, they would be just developers. So the best way of having a cross-functional team is, again, you have 5 developers and dedicate 2 testers to it, or maybe 3 testers, depending upon the ratio you decide. So that it's a mixed bundle. right? And there could be few testers who are who are looking for the responsibility and who keep constantly taking the feedbacks or maybe knowledge transfer from the cross domain team members, right? And you can even choose to swap them in case of large teams. Then again, they are self-organizing and self-managing. They are never assigned a work. They take the ownership and have your higher management has trust on them that they are self-sufficient. Again, this is something which you just go and tell them that you own these requirements will not happen. They need to understand that they have the sense of ownership, and they have to be agile. They should have that mindset of taking the ownership. You just can't one fine day and get up and tell them that okay, we are agile. Right. They negotiate with the product owners one sprint at a time. So when I was telling you that it's the team who decides what would be done in the particular sprint, it's the responsibility of a team, because they are the one who go and talk to product owner. They are understanding the complete requirement, what exactly is needed, and they go and tell, okay, based on the bandwidth available, this is what we will be doing. They work very collaboratively and they communicate as much as possible. They are most successful when they are located in one room, particularly for the first few sprints. Then 7+2 is the typical team side, and they should have a leadership role. The ownership can only come if they think then they have the leadership qualities. So this is one of the biggest challenge when you plan to move towards Agile, because this sense of ownership, this sense of leadership, this sense of, is really a tough job to achieve. And most of the cases people are really reluctant. Okay, if I pick this up, I'm not sure if this needs to be picked up. They need to be comfortable under their skin. They need to know what exactly project needs are. They should be very comfortable. If till the time they're not comfortable, they will not have that confidence even to pick the things. Right? So we as somebody as a Scrum Master or the higher management needs to mentor their teams to get that, for them to come at that level. That's why I said Scrum Master is always a servant leader, because he has to mentor and coach them. He just can't guide them. Okay, the second role which is there in Agile is a Scrum team. Next comes is the Scrum Master. He facilitates the Scrum processes. He does not he defines the processes in collaboration with the team, in discussion with the team. And then when the processes are set up, he just makes sure that these processes are being followed. He just facilitates them. He mentors them and guides them. He helps resolve the impediments. So now if team is stuck somewhere, he makes sure that he's getting those things resolved. So the team is not wasting some time over like third-party communications and everything. So he makes sure that all the impediments are resolved. He creates an environment for the teams to be self-organized. Clear enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Then he ensures the data are captured. So now for Burndown Chart and for the information radiators to depict right information, they should be updated regularly. Right? It's not the duty of the Scrum Master to go ahead and update them, but it's the duty of a Scrum Master to make sure that they are updated on a regular basis. If you find some discrepancies, it's the duty of a Scrum Master to check what the problem area is and guide team accordingly to fix that. Right? He shields the team from external interference and distractions. Right? He acts as a gate for the higher management. He just doesn't make sure that somebody from higher management comes and starts talking to the team and waste their time. So he makes sure that anybody who needs some information, Scrum Master is hands-on, has complete set of information, and so that anything if goes wrong or any information needed, he can just pitch it. Even if some team members go missing, maybe, so this would be the typical example. Now with Diwali coming up, you would see many team members are missing, right? Most of the people go on long leaves. And if you have some critical delivery, you are in a soup, right? So Scrum Master should be self-sufficient and he should be hands-on so that he can replace one of those situations. He can just come and test. It should not be that he's blank what he needs to do and what he doesn't need to do, what's happening in the project. Okay? So he enforces time boxes, he keeps Scrum artifacts visible, he has no management authority over the team, he's a servant leader, has a leadership role. Because obviously when there are conflicts, obviously he tries to ignore them, but there are times when the conflicts reaches to level 3 and level 4 and he might have to interfere. Or even if he is coaching and guiding, he needs to provide that feedback in a manner that it doesn't hurt somebody, right? So leadership role in that sense. Clear, or you have doubts or questions?
No, this is good.
Okay. So now, failure modes.
I didn't understand. I didn't understand the third one. You said about self-organization.
Okay, so he creates an environment conducive to team self-organization. So he makes sure that team is motivated enough that he doesn't need to go and assign them a work. They are picking up the work on their own, they are managing it on their own, and if at all they need some extra help, they're talking to each other and getting that, they're resolving it. Right? And this is only possible if there are no conflicts, morale is high, and he makes sure that team's morale is high. Maybe he just throws a pizza party every 2 weeks so that people come on a common platform and they're talking, right? So all these kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are the various failure modes for any agile team? Now, since we know agile, we know roles and responsibilities, what do you think could be the failure mode? Of not being able to be agile? Okay. Too many interference from the management could be one, or maybe higher management is not convinced, or maybe is not supportive enough for you to be agile, right? If higher management is not ready to leave that dictatorial attitude, you can't be agile. They need to understand that in agile you don't command, you guide. So the management commitment should be there. They need to trust you for that. If they're not, you can never be agile. They need to support you. They have to create a culture where they have sense of trust in their employees and their juniors and their peers, that no matter what, they are there to shield you. The blame game would not start. If there are no retrospections happening, maybe there are retrospections happening, but on the things that we need to stop doing or we are not happy about, if we are not taking any actions to improve those things, you're not agile. Your agile would be failure. Right? In unstable infrastructure and architecture, like your environments are not stable enough, or maybe your working culture is not stable enough in a way that there is very high iteration rate, right? Or maybe the systems that you need to update any product are not available, or they are not very stable, right? A lack of collaboration, as we talked about yesterday as well. If you're not open to communicate, you're not open to leave your ego aside, you cannot be agile. None, not too many product owners. There is no owner of the product backlog. Since there were too many product backlog, one thought the other would update the product backlog, second thought third would update the product, but nobody was doing the updating the product backlog. Everything went missing in the emails. Right? Too many technical depths, similarly too many technical depths, or the Scrum Master could not guide team properly, he could not mentor or coach, right? And people were not even ready to come out of that traditional mindset. Like generally, Anand, I'm sure you would have come across this situation where, when you want testing to happen in parallel, there are times when dev teams become so reluctant. No, this feature is not complete, we will not release it for testing. They are just not ready that a partial feature can be released for testing. The testing team should start, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a traditional way, right? I mean, if you're not testing in parallel, there's no point of being agile. So these are the places where agile can fail. And these are the places where you need to go and tell them, no, this is not how you work. If you wait till last minute, you would be wasting the effort for both the tester and developer. Maybe you guys should start working in pair. You need to teach them the benefit of being agile.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we are done with today's class. So in next class, we would be talking about agile estimation, how agile stories and requirements are measured, how their complexity is defined, and we will understand about two estimation techniques. One is wide band Delphi and another is planning poker. Okay, so we'll have a lot of exercises in this class.
I have some questions in the previous slide.
Okay, can you just tell me which topic?
Uh,
In the previous?
No. Yeah, here. One thing, I didn't understand the second one, and the last few points, starting from no on-site evangelist.
Okay. See, when we say higher management should be ready to come out of the authoritative mode, when they are coming out of the authoritative mode, they are creating a culture where they think that their teams are efficient enough to handle it on their own. They are creating a supporting culture. So generally, what happens? Okay, so let's start from zero. So what happens if you get a client escalation? What generally happens in your teams? The client escalation comes to probably since you own a company, it comes to you. What would you do typically? You go down to a delivery manager or probably the senior manager. Senior manager goes down to the project manager. Project manager goes down to probably the leads, or leads talk to the team. The blame game starts there. So in Agile we say, rather than doing that, we act as a barrier for them. We take ownership, we take responsibility. What went wrong, complete team was responsible for that. We support them, we shield them in whatever way possible. We agree to the point that mistakes can happen. It's just not that, oh, there is an escalation and I should start firing people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. No on-site evangelist. So, to be agile, you need to have a very good very good relationship with your stakeholders or with your client, right? So if a product owner, a typical product owner is from a vendor side, or you need to have a very good relationship with that guy. That guy should have very good relationship with the client. Or if a product owner is from a client side, then you need to have a very good relationship with the product owner, so that he acts as a shield for you. He understands your concerns, and if you're saying that this cannot be done, he understands that, he supports that. If you don't have a very good rapport or a very good relationship, no matter how good that person technically is or how good you gave an explanation, there would be times that you would get into that if no, this has to be done. So you might need few people on site. So there, or maybe a continuous traveler or something of that sort who helps maintain those relationships.
You mean to play the role of product owners mainly?
No, that was product owner was an example. To have a relationship building.
Okay. So when we have some problems, say technically, or we have a set of holidays fall in between a sprint, when we communicate with stakeholders, they may not be understand if some of our team members are not on site. That's what you mean?
Okay, let me give you an example here. So in one of my projects, what happened was, it was a Diwali week. Okay, 90% of team, since they were outstation people, were on leave. But client got fussy that this particular week would be a UAT week. Now, with 90% team missing, we were not ready to go into UAT. And from testing team, out of 8 people, only 1 person was available, and from dev team, almost, I think 2 or 3 people were missing. 2 or 3 people were there. So we tried hard. We could not convey this to client that it's a Diwali week. So for you, the way Christmas is important, you guys are not available for Diwali. It's similar to us, and we cannot get into this week, but let's do a UAT following week. And that project failed. It was a disaster. It was a disaster because we were new to the project at that particular time. The people who were managing that project from beginning had left the company, and since most of the higher management were new, we were not having that kind of a rapport with the client. We could not make client understand that why exactly UAT could not happen. Had this been there, the rapport with the client would have been there. We could have negotiated to some extent. Right? So you need to, and to maintain that rapport, somebody should be there who is in person to the client. Or maybe who keeps...
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, got my point. No solid team. When there is that team building, we as a team is missing. That attitude is missing. Tsunami of technical debt. When there are too many technical debts. So team is just focusing. They are not creating. They are not doing unit testing. So what are technical debts? No creation of a unit test cases. No comments. No code reviews happening. These are technical debts. Or maybe for testing team, a technical debt could be they did not create, they created test cases, but the requirement changed and later they did not update it. That's a technical debt for a testing team, right? Or maybe for support team, for a configuration management team, they were not updating the release notes. The patch was applied to the build and they did not go ahead and update the release notes. That's a technical debt. When so many technical debts are there, it's a time, it's an agile failure. Since we are saying that we are not doing anything in a big bang, we are working in bits and bits. So ideally this situation should not have arisen. So something went wrong somewhere. Traditional performance appraisals. So, okay. So, so how do you generally do a performance appraisal for your team? Hello.
Right now we have some metrics that we are obtaining from our project manager. Based on that, we perform the appraisal.
Yeah. So Agile says the way the people should be rated is what was their contribution to project is a common thing that we all do. And how they went above and beyond another. How many times client appreciated them? How many times their peers thought that they were a good source of knowledge? How creative were they in completing some task, right? Or maybe creativity in decreasing the time that particular task could be done. So I thought I would update database in 10 hours, but then somebody came and told me that the script you have written to update the database can be optimized in different way, and he optimized it for me, though it was not his duty to do that, but it saved my team's effort, right?
You
So
mean,
rather than
so you mean this performance appraisal in Agile should happen in a different way than the traditional way?
right. So even we were talking about
do we have any listed metrics to measure the performance in Agile?
there is no listed metrics, but there are certain ideas that we will discuss in the communication skills and soft skills part.
Okay, yeah, fine.
Even when we were talking about our daily Scrum meeting, I told you that we were doing a daily, weekly champion of the week thing, right? So if there is a person who got champion of the week twice a month, the morale would obviously be high, and it would give a competitive spirit to others as well. Oh, he got champion twice. I need to get that. Right? It eventually increases the performance of the team and the individual performances as well. In one of my projects, the fine money we used to collect, we used to even give the champion, the amounts were pretty small, like 100, 150 types, but again, getting it every week used to be a big bonus. Right.
So the champion of the week is based on it's for every sprint or what?
It used to be like, a sprint has 3 weeks, so there would be 3 champions. I mean, 3 times a champion of the week would be delivered. So the way it happens, like in your daily stand-up, complete team is there on the veto power. Like I feel it's A, B felt it's A, C felt it's A, D felt it E, F felt it G, and we give a reasoning why we felt A performed better. And based on the consensus, we choose A.
Okay, right. And it's been chosen by the Scrum Master?
No, it's chosen by the team. Majority wins. And if there are 2, you can just choose to give 2. I mean, it's just a way how you can boost a morale. That's it. You can just make, you can't, I mean, if there were 2, you just can't have we have to tie, now let's do a tiebreaker. We are not going to do that. It's just that if there are 2 people voted, then we just give it to 2 people. It just induces a sense of competition. Right? And then last is revert to traditional, where We started with Agile, but we ended being a mini waterfall. This could be, I was not doing a daily release. I was not checking in a code. I held my code till my feature was completely implemented. And the testing team could only test it after the complete functionality was developed. That's again a mini waterfall, right? You are moving phase wise. Not design did, waterfall development happened, and then you gave it for testing. Parallel testing is not happening. You're not doing a continuous integration kind of a thing. Or maybe you are not implementing the feedback continuously. You're holding it onto it. And you say, okay,
I have a question here.
Yeah.
I experienced something. We set a sprint for say about we have 7 tasks, and we set the sprint end date. When we progress with say 4 tasks we completed, 4 features we completed, and by that time the client, the stakeholders, enforcers to introduce some 2 new features into this current sprint. Instead of adding it to the next sprint, they want it in the current sprint, but the sprint already started and we completed 4 features. So in this case, what should we do?
So as I mentioned yesterday as well, Mathur, I think in that case, you should talk to the client, understand the priority. If they really feel that it's of very high priority, you can pick up something which is of lower priority for that. You can take that out.
Okay, so because even in this case also, the release date will not change for the sprint.
No. And it will only change if it can only change if they are ready to take an impact, because obviously if you are pushing the release date, that would have a impact on client's delivery. Rather than client's delivery, it would have the impact on their ROI.
Yeah,
that should be the last resort.
Yeah, when we try to convince the client about this feature, they say we don't mind about the delay in the delivery, but they need the particular feature in the current release.
In that case, I think that should be fair enough. I mean, if they want the release date to be pushed, they should. But ideally, in that case, I think one try should be definitely made that, okay, this feature is so important. This looks like a not so important feature. Let's take it out. Let's keep your delivery date same, because obviously that would impact your ROI. When you do that, this will give a sense of to your client as well that you are concerned about him.
Yeah, okay. But this scenario will not lead to the last point which you mentioned in the slide, revert to traditional, right?
No, but why?
Because we changed the delivery.
No. You changed. Even previously I mentioned that you can change a delivery date, provided if it's very important. Even when we were talking about product backlog, ideally the iteration size does not change. A release date can be changed if it cannot be if it is very important. The first resort should be, it should not be, but in case if it cannot be avoided, it should be changed only in that scenario.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, traditional would be that you are working in the phases.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Any other question? Anindya, Mathur?
It's clear, pretty clear now.
Okay.
No, I'm
so guys,
fine.
Yeah, if you don't have any more questions, we will close for the day. And please make sure when we meet next for quiz 2 and quiz 3 are done, so that we can spend some time discussing it, because I think it will take almost 1 hour of our time. And agile estimation is a very interesting topic.
Looking forward to it. Suchi, can you refer to us some book for good knowledge as well as which will take care about the exam as well?
Mike Griffith.
Mike
Griffith. GRI. Double F I
Can you
T
type it in
H.
the chat window?
GRIFFIT, Griffith.
Okay, just a sec.
Okay.
Let me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, fine.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, thank you. I'm okay.
Okay. I'll close this session, and I'll pass on your concern to the Edureka team as well, that you had some problem joining in the class. I think they should get back to you by Monday end of the day. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yeah, and you have a nice week ahead. Thank you very much, Suchi.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
Bye.
Bye.